That's also a good idea. You can just lay down. Sure. Anything else? Any other alternative? Run away? Lie down? Just sure. Sure. If you know swimming, you should just try to enjoy that in spite of the fact that it's a big wave and it's moving fast. But you should know swimming to do that. Fair? Okay. Any other thoughts? Anything else that we can do, sir? Just move along with the wave. Correct? Did you say that? Okay. Fair.
In fact, with the waves smooth enough to not create any big like what you say,
Hmm.
the drop kind of thing which pushes your body.
Sure. Sure. Perfect. Mike? Yep. Perfect. So, the kind of situation that at least we folks who are in the automotive industry is a very similar situation where everything was nice. We are in the beach, we are with friends, and nice, everything was good. Then there is this real big wave, which we call as disruptive technologies. In this case, the friends we lived with, the engine, and all the components around it, all of them suddenly one day decided to leave us and go. And then suddenly we met some very new guys, the battery, the motor, lot of electronics and software, which we guys never knew. Actually, all our vehicle was entirely a mechanical system with all engine and moving parts. That's a world we lived in for close to 60, 70 years. Then suddenly this huge wave came in, which is the electric mobility, making us let go of what we have lived with for so many years. And then this just happens to be with the automotive industry. This could happen with any other industry, be it healthcare or manufacturing, anywhere and everywhere. When things like this happen, it's like the situation where Arjuna, who had learned so much, who was best in the field, when he has to actually use it, kind of he loses confidence and asks Krishna, "What should I do? You tell me. Whatever you say, I will do." That's a kind of a situation many of the leaders in the automotive industry are, because whatever they have been trained in over the years, whatever they have lived with for so many decades, suddenly is of no use to them. It's something totally entirely new. So the one thing that we observe that helps people wherever you are, whether it is a CEO, CTO, or a fresh engineer, innovation is one skill that always comes to your help. Whatever be the domain, wherever you are, whatever be the size of the disruption that is you are facing, this innovation skill is one skill that always comes to your rescue and keeps you safe. So it's like how you said, it's like learning to surf and make this whole wave, riding the wave, a kind of a very pleasure and a fun experience rather than getting worried about what's happened to me when this wave hits me. Because it's not just making a new electric vehicle. Every single component that goes into the vehicle is no longer there. And there are so many companies like Brakes India or Wheels India who are named themselves after the component that they make. They have been doing it for so many decades. And now all of them have to reinvent themselves. They have to figure out what is their core strength and how they can actually use it to do something different. Okay.
Move to the next page.
How do I do that?
Just click on
Is this arrow?
even
First one? Okay, sure.
even keyboard up down.
Yeah. No, I'll do that. I'll do that. That's easier.
Yeah.
So this is where we are. This is just to set the context for why suddenly we are talking about innovation on a day just before Deepavali. Why this suddenly has become important? This has become important because this has become one thing that is helping industries to survive today. Sure. So just we had a very detailed discussion about what is innovation. So just to summarize what you all said, there are three dimensions to innovation. One is creating value for the end user, whoever he is. You have to create value so that he's ready to pay for it. End of the day. That takes care of the commercialization, the profitability part of it. But it should not be just a small incremental thing. It should be a good insight out of which you are creating value. And you should be able to take this idea successfully to the market. If it's just in your lab, it's still not innovation. You should be able to safely cross all the barriers and take it to the market. So these are the three dimensions. We are talking about an insight, which is something you know, which many others don't know, and using that insight to create value for whoever is going to use it. And it's not just demonstrating in the lab, you are going to take it to the market. So I'm talking about only three things to keep it very simple. There could be many other dimensions, but these are the most important ones. If you go to the best of best universities, this model comes from Harvard. They talk about three things. Innovation is really at the intersection of these three. So curiosity, your technical expertise, and your motivation. You need to have all these three if you want to be a successful innovator. You may have great technical expertise, but over time you may become less curious because you know almost everything you need to know. So you're no longer curious. So if that curiosity is missing, then that's going to be a problem. You may be curious, you may know everything you need to know, but you may lack motivation. Because we said 3 out of 100 ideas actually become innovation. So when you try and fail a few times, you may lose motivation and move on to something else. So motivation is also critical. So all these three are important. Without any one of these three, it's very difficult to translate idea into innovation. So we will just keep this in mind. But I looked at our own literature. What is our understanding of innovation? And then I found this definition from the Sri Lalita Sahasranama. We chant this almost every day, but hidden within it is a very beautiful description of innovation. Talks about three primary forces that fuel innovation: Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Icha is a desire to take up a problem, desire to solve it, desire to help people out, desire to make a difference. Without that desire, nothing is, you won't even get started. Jnana Shakti, you have the desire, but you don't know anything. So I want to do something in, say, nuclear reactor design. I don't know anything about it. I have the desire. What's the fun? So I need to have the Jnana Shakti. The third is a Kriya Shakti. The word creativity itself derives from that Kriya, but it's all about doing. Kriya is an action verb, doing something, executing, making the idea work, taking that effort to really make it work. So it's at the confluence of these three forces, the Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti, that innovation really happens. I've seen this again and again and again in various projects that you have worked with. If any one of this is missing, then it's not getting really translated to innovation. And this has been our traditional Indian model to look at what we should do to make ourselves more innovative. Of the many things that you can do to just get started on this journey, the very first thing for you to do is find a problem to work on. Focus. Because in this picture, you see somebody's holding a lens. This lens can be adjusted to look at the entire forest. If you want to take a big picture of the entire forest, we can do that. Or if you want to zoom in on one particular tree, and in the tree, one particular branch and one leaf in that branch, you can do that. So, focus is all about whether you want to solve this whole big problem of urban mobility, or you want to look at electric vehicle, get into the battery and look at the cathode of the battery and prevent those things, that dendrites that's growing on the electrode. So how narrow you want to get into or how broad you want to keep, both are fine. Absolutely, you have enough innovation opportunities on both ends of the spectrum, but you need to decide what is your bandwidth, what resources you got access to, so where exactly you want to focus. So that's a very first thing we should look at. Second thing is making the leap. There are so many good ideas that are currently working. It's very difficult to let go of that. But until you let go of these current ideas, you can't take that leap and move on to something new. If I'm trying to hold on to the IC engine, I can never move on to the electric vehicle. If I'm trying to hold on to this human driven vehicle, I can never move to the autonomous. So I have to let go of a current technology, a current idea which is working pretty good. I need to let go of it if I have to move on to the next. So taking the leap, the intellectual leap, is very critical, because without that, it will be status quo. But when you do that, if you just take a leap, high chances that guy may not really reach the other cliff. He may fall somewhere in between. That chances are pretty high, especially if he's looking at not something incremental, something really out of the box and disruptive. That's why, in my approach, I keep the leap and the orient together. I don't know whether you have been to a circus anytime in the recent past. When we were small, we used to go to a circus at least once a year during Deepavali or Pongal. There used to be a circus. If you see the trapeze artists, they'll be swinging, and when one has to make this actual leap, they have to let go the swing they are in, but they also have to orient themselves towards the other swing that they want to latch on to. So it's a simultaneous thing. It cannot happen in a serial manner. When you're leaping, you should also be orienting yourself. So that's why I keep leap and orient together in my model. So my model is called flow. So F is for focus, L and O is leap and orient. In the next few minutes, we'll understand how it works. The last one is what's next. Because once you solve this problem, things are not static. The world is continuously evolving. You need to know what's the next problem you should be working on. If you're able to do that, then you're all ready with the next problem and you can repeat the same thing and keep moving on. So, this is what I'm really going to talk about today: focus, leap and orient, and what's next. This is in a very simple way. Innovation journey basically takes you to these three phases. It's as simple as that. Whatever be the field you want to innovate, you need to focus on the right problem, let go the old ideas, take a leap. Orient is making sure your idea really works. What's next is your ability to keep an eye on what is changing and how are you preparing yourself to solve the next big problem. Sure. People talk about many skills that are important to innovate, but I'm just going to focus on one of the skill, which is the ability to ask the right questions. All through our 12 years of school, people ask questions and we answer. And we are discouraged from asking very tough questions in the classroom. Maybe they'll take it offline, but typically you're not encouraged to ask very bold and tough questions. But if you're asked to set a question paper, we really don't know how to go about it, where to start, and how should we, what practices we should follow, and so on. But given a question paper, it's very easy to answer it because we know the answers. We can just go ahead and do it. But when it comes to innovation, it's all about the quality of questions that you ask and what are you questioning. That becomes the most critical thing. So I'm going to start with something very simple, no rocket science. When you pick up a problem, we are going to ask who is affected by it today. If you're talking about the city traffic problem, when we say who is affected, it's very easy to say everybody is affected. But here we should try to narrow down to find out who is the most affected. So that if we solve that problem for that person, then we'll be able to solve for anybody else in a very systematic way. What is the problem? When is it a problem? Where is it a problem? How is it a problem and why is it a problem? 6 simple questions which can give you the initial momentum to just get started on. In this, I'll just focus on the why and the how. The others are fairly straightforward. Because when you can say peak hours and when peak hours varies, then you can talk about it. Where certain points in the city you can say this is all the trouble. Okay, fine. The why is what are the reasons for which, because of which this traffic problem come. You could look at it at different levels and say these are the reasons. But the how is, the way I look at how is, if you don't solve it, what's going to happen? What bigger problem is it going to lead to if you are not going to solve this problem? So when I say eppadi, how? See, what happens if you don't do anything about it for the next few years? It will lead to a much bigger problem, a very different problem, what it is going to be. So this is just to get started, just asking these 6 simple questions. What is interesting is this is the traditional model of how we think. We always have a part of the brain which is good at giving a lot of new ideas, the creative right brain, we call it. Reality is a lot more complex than this, but this is a simple cognitive model to explain how ideas are really born. The other side is the analytical part, which we call as a left brain. As soon as a new idea pops up, the left brain analyzes and says what is good and what is bad about the idea. In this interaction, in a fraction of a second, a lot of ideas get killed also, because the left brain doesn't find it so logical and analytical. So it just says, this is not going to work. You're better off moving on to some better idea. So all this happens without our conscious intervention many a times. But this is how the typical idea processing happens. There's a creative part and there's an analytical part. There is always a continuous interaction between these two as we go along. What happens is sometimes the right brain, the creative brain, tries to give you a lot of crazy ideas. And the left brain is very strict. It says, if this is not logical, I'm not going to take it forward. In the process, we lose a lot of good ideas also. So, one of the first things I want to talk about is there a way to keep this logical brain quiet for some time? Not long, just for a few seconds, maybe lucky a minute, so that the right brain, the creative brain, can give good number of ideas for us to get started with. The starting problem, typically. So that's where I'm going to introduce a very simple thinking tool called What If. What if? Simple. Because moment you challenge the assumptions, the logical brain finds it very uneasy. Finds it very uncomfortable. And then it kinds of tries to wonder, what is this guy trying to do? It doesn't sound logical. Why is he doing this? And it's busy. And that's a time when the right brain can quickly generate a few ideas and give you. Just have given you a few examples. This is a company that thought, what if we allow our customers to design the product themselves rather than we designing a product and giving them? Why not? So Nike has this website. You can actually go over there and design your own shoe. The color, the fabric, the design, every single thing out there you can do, and it will be just one your unique shoe at a very small additional cost. So Nike can do. Can Mahindra do that? Can Mahindra say that you can design your XUV? We'll give you all the block building blocks, the technologies. You build a SUV, the color you want, the shape you want, and this and that. So for some industry it is possible. For some industries it may not be possible. With 3D printing and things coming, maybe with the time that could be possible. That's something debatable, but this is what one company thought of, and they could build a new business around it. When we want to learn a new language, we go to a school and then we spend 2-3 hours in a week learning it. It's a lot of effort, and little by little we progress. But what you see here is they had a small app, even in our short as 5 to 10 minutes, you can learn a few new words and progress. So, can you actually split your product or service into something very small chunks so it becomes easy to consume? Rather than giving one big thing, can I give small, small things periodically? This is another what if somebody asked. Of course, Airbnb. How many of you have actually used Airbnb? Can you just put up your hand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good. We have done this quite a few times. So, Airbnb has basically decentralized the whole concept of a hotel. Instead of one person having so many hotels with a lot of rooms, everything he owning, now every one of us, if we have an additional room in the house, we can just go register ourselves, and Airbnb can expand with every click that every person across the globe makes. It's a completely decentralized concept of a hotel. So, can other industries do that? Is it that only the hotel industry can do? Can others copy this and try to do something? That's again a what if. Just to trigger the thought that is it possible for us to decentralize? Can we do something like this? The last one is most interesting. What if we create our own competitor? Instead of waiting for some competitor to come and trouble us, can we create our own competitor? Is it possible? What do you think? Is it good or bad to create our own competitor? What do you think? Yeah? This idea has been implemented actually with hair. It has been implemented. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yes. Correct. That is also possible. Sure. Sure. What else? What else? If the competitor is also part of you, what advantage does it give you? Correct. Absolutely. What else? You're also under pressure to innovate. Especially if your competitor is innovative, then you're also forced to be innovative, isn't it? That's what Hair did. Hair was in the appliance space. They said, let's have multiple small groups within here developing their own products and bring it to market. Let the market decide which one will win or the other. Either way, hair makes the money. But that led to a lot of innovation, a lot of new product. Customers are happy, hair is happy. So this model work for them. So possibly we can. This is just a sample of. There are 50 such what if questions from the website where I picked it up. So I have included it in the reference. You can look at all 50 to see how many of those will be actually useful to you. Sure. So my first tool that I shared with you is what if, just to challenge status quo and see is it possible to do it differently. Second one is what if it's not there? Okay. Because when I want to do something, I want this, I want this, I want this. Many times, most of the things I want will not be there. Can I still go ahead and do? Is it possible? So here is where I'm going to give you an example. I want to design a school which is very innovative. Okay. Unlike any school that I've gone to. So because I left school many years back, you can guess. But when I went back and saw the school, there was only one thing that had really changed. That blackboard has become a whiteboard now. So the teacher uses a whiteboard which is dust free. Good. But nothing else has changed in terms of the content, the way it is being taught. Every single thing is still the same. So let's look at this. So if I ask you to kind of design a very innovative, very different school, some assumptions that you will still work with will be my school would need a building, it would need a teacher, it would need some students. These are things that you cannot break. You'll say, I need all this, and then I'll try to think of a new way in which I can design and run the school. But for a moment, I'm going to take you away from this standard situation and say, what if there is no teacher? What would you do? Sriram? No, there's no teacher. Everything else is there, but you're unable to get teachers for some reason. So, how do you run your school? Sure. That's one way. What else? Any other ideas along this? Everything, all other resources are there. Teacher alone is not available. How can I run my school? Ask students to teach each other. We do some pictures there where students are learning from each other. Peer-to-peer learning is possible. Any other ideas? What else can we do if there is no teacher? Who else can be a teacher? Online, of course, absolutely. Last 2 years we have seen that. Yes. Who else can be a teacher? Bot can be a teacher. Sure.
Older students can be.
The older students, the senior students can teach the juniors. Students can learn from each other. The parents can step in. The school I went to, we didn't have a math teacher for almost a whole year. So a few parents came in and taught us. So you know why I'm weak in math. So it was whole of my eighth grade. I had to manage like that. Okay. No building. I have teachers, I have students, but I'm unable to get a building for my school. How can I run my school? Under a tree? Absolutely. Any other better ideas? I would love to have a class under a tree. Absolutely. Anything else? Home. Yeah, you can use one of the students' home as a school. Marriage hall. Yes. We had a research center that ran out of a marriage hall. This was back in Pune. We did that. Yeah. Temple. Of course. My mother in Tanjavur, she went to a school which was taught in a temple, actually. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely. Temple. We've seen schools in a bus, in a train compartment, all kinds of things. No exams. Okay. I want to run a school without exams. Can you give some alternative? I'm sure Bharatram would like that. Sure. But how else do you make sure that we are actually, whatever we are teaching is being absorbed and useful? Please, two questions to each other. Perfect. That is one way. Sure. Any other way that we can do without exams? Students evaluate each other. Absolutely. Sure. Yes. Anything else? Seminar. Absolutely. Seminar. Student evaluating each other and student teaching others also. That is the seminar mode. I'll come to the last one very quickly in the interest of time. You have everything, but no students. No student has turned up for some reason. So, what are you going to do with your school? Tell me. What will you do? You have a building, you have teachers, but no students. Pardon? Ah, ditch the school and move on to something else. Okay, that's sure, sure. So, what else can you use these resources for if students are not there?
reach students remotely. Now
You can
technology
reach them remotely instead of they be coming to school wherever they are. You can reach out to them. Who else can be students? Who else can be students?
adults
Training the teachers. So teachers can be students, correct? So teachers can be students. Parents can be students. Who else can be students?
corporate employees, we can get them.
Employees. We used to run a Toastmasters out of a school. So we have so many things we can do with the school. So the idea here is to break away from the core assumptions. Just turn it around so that this logical brain, the left brain is wondering, what is Shankar trying to do? Why is he thinking of a school without a teacher? School without student doesn't make sense. Why is he wasting his time? So that's a time for the right brain to quickly catch up and give you as many crazy ideas as possible. Simple tool, very simple, just to fool your logical brain for a short time. Because the more you learn and more you specialize, the logical brain speaks so loud that you just cannot silence it. So, this is just a simple way in which you can try to do that. The last one, if you're looking for a paradigm shift, because Badri said, want something out of the box, something very different, not an incremental thing. If you want a real shift, the tool is very simple. Just asking why 5 times. Just asking why. The well known question which we used to ask when we were small, but ask in a particular way, which I'm going to show you. This is a poem. Yes, I think I was in sixth or seventh when I learned this. This talks about a kingdom that was lost because a nail was missing. Doesn't make sense. When you really hear it for the first time, you wonder how the kingdom could have been lost because a nail was missing. So when you ask these 5 whys, why the kingdom was lost, because the battle was lost. Why the battle was lost? Because many of the soldiers they could not fight well. Why they couldn't fight well? Because many of them they lost their horses. Why did they lose their horses? Because the horses lost their shoes. Why did they lose their shoe? Because the nails came off. So if I am the king, Rajaraja Cholan, and I have the best army, the best weapons, best training, but if I'm not aware of this nail coming off from the shoes of my horse, I'm still going to be in trouble, isn't it? So this 5 why is about going in a very laser focused way, going deeper and deeper and deeper and asking what is the most fundamental problem that I should solve if I want to solve the bigger problem. If I'm a metallurgist, maybe I'll ask one more question. Why is the nail rusting? Why is it coming off? Then I'll try to do a coating, something deeper. But the where you stop depends on how much expertise you have, how much expertise you can leverage from in and around. If as a company I don't have, I know at least whom to partner with, but I will stop at a stage where I can take an action. That's the last why. But many times if I shift from the first why to the last why, the answers are so different. So if I'm making and selling the answer to the first why versus the fifth why, my product will look very different, my customer experience will be very very different. So that's 5 whys, very simple tool. The only catch there is many times you will get kind of distracted when you're asking the second or third why. You'll suddenly come up with 3 reasons. You'll be wondering whether to go this way or this way or this way. But go deeper on all the 3 ways because you need to go 5 levels, whichever way you're choosing. So, with this, I'm going to move on from cousins to the next one, which is what we are all always excited about, which is generating idea. Because we spend so much time just asking some questions and trying to understand the problem. But many times we don't do that actually. We just take the problem and run to solve it. So that's typically what we do. So today I intentionally kind of delayed that process and said, let's spend a little more time understanding the problem. Now we will come to what you really want to do, which is to solve the problem. Here I'm going to give you a very simple tool. I call it, what happened? Oh, that's the end of my part one presentation. Okay. Okay.
1 second.
So,
We'll load it from here.
yes. Okay. So I think we have stopped at a right time because now we are going to generate ideas and pick the best idea and take it forward. So this is a good time to take a pause and hear your thoughts on whatever we discussed so far. So please feel free to talk about it. Yes.
இங்க
Ah,
full screen போட்டுறேன்.
yeah. Move to the third chart. Create. Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. Anybody wants to say anything? Whatever we have covered so far before I get in here, because we are changing gears, we are getting into something very different now. So if you have something to say, please do that now. If not, we'll go ahead. Sure.
So regarding the 5 years,
Yes. 5 eyes.
to do this analysis, the analyzer should have the proper knowledge and proper direction.
Absolutely. You're not alone. Okay. Here is where the collaboration comes. You need to understand who all you need to bring in, because you know certain things, you don't know many other things. So you need to create that kind of a cross functional team with people who have complementary skills and knowledge. So then you'll be able to go. Fifth why is difficult, actually. Honestly, when we try, typically stop at third. Even fourth is a big thing typically. Yes, problems are reasonably well defined when we start. So going beyond 3 levels is tough. But the real shift happens when you go 5 levels down. Sure. That'll be. Gopu, can I get some water? It's a. So, friends, this is a very simple acronym, because many times when you need ideas, you don't get ideas. Ideas simply come when you don't want it, but when you actually need it, sometimes you just go blank. So here is where I just put a simple acronym, which you can always rely on when you want to get some ideas. The acronym is called CREATE. Okay, CREATE. Combine, rearrange, enhance, adapt, turn around, and eliminate. Simple 6 triggers. If one doesn't work, something else will work. So your chances of getting idea is now sixfold increase. Okay. Let me just show you some of those ideas, how they look like. This is something we can all easily appreciate. I have carried heavy suitcases and moved around when I was small. And these suitcases were not even made of this. It used to be those steel trunks and heavy ones. You have to carry that and run to catch a train and things like that. But somebody just combined wheels, which is very much there, and the handle, which is also very well known. But just by the act of combining these three, such a useful innovation, isn't it? So this combine is all about, you need not wait for something new to pop up in your head. Just look at what's around you and say, can I combine this with this and make something useful out of it? Clock. You want to wake up at 4 o'clock, but you're deep asleep. How do you know it's 4 o'clock? If only it will ring and say it's 4 o'clock, you can get up. So a bell and a clock. Very simple thing. And of course, the fax machine and things like many such examples. But I was associated with a startup which did something very cool and very important life-saving device, which is basically a defibrillator. The defibrillator basically has applies a very high voltage and revives the heart, makes it again start beating. Many times when you need it, it won't have the desired high voltage and it won't be ready to work. Then they looked at this hand cranked radios, which are very common across many African countries. Then they said, can we bring that hand cranking mechanism to this defibrillator so that an emergency team can just quickly get this defibrillator up and running? So, Jeevtronics is a Indian startup. This has been around for almost 5 years, and they have really developed this product very, very effectively. They went on to win many innovation awards and stuff like that. So, Combine is all about looking at how can I combine something which is existing with something else and make it more useful. Sure. Because these two come from very different worlds. So somebody has to make that connection to really do this. But it's easy. Once you get into this mode, it's so easy to combine. So you don't need to sit under a tree and wait for an idea to pop up. You can make it happen. The second is I want to talk about adapt. The common Velcro that we all use in fabrics and bags and whatnot was an idea adapted from nature. The innovator took his dog for a walk, and then when he came back, he saw this thing stuck to the fur of the dog, picked it up and looked at it in a microscope and saw that it has this hook kind of a mechanism, which is what makes it hold. Said, can we make it? In the lab, he made it and went on to create the Velcro. And I'm sure this is something you would all heard about. This is this guy who was leading this particular project, and this bullet train was making a lot of noise, and then he got this inspiration from this bird. There's this bird If it creates too much ripples when it gets into the water, it won't get its food. So it's very critical for its survival to figure out a way to get into the water and catch the fish without disturbing. Without that, it won't get its food. So it has to do it. So the same idea inspired to really extend the front of this bullet train and make it nice. So many times nature might have already figured it out. If you can look at it and try to borrow that idea, your life becomes easy as an innovator. This is just one class of adapt. You can adapt ideas from anywhere. I just picked up one where we are adapting from the nature. This is about turnaround, the T of create, which is the turnaround, the Gatorade energy drink. The way this came up. So when there is a sudden outburst of cholera, things like that, there is a urgent need for rehydrating the people very effective ways. And there was a Ayurvedic formulation which had the dry banana powder and things like that, coconut water, a particular combination, which was very effective in rehydrating a person who's in extreme situations. And that was a little counterintuitive as to the existing scientific knowledge at the time, but this got published at the Lancet and people started discussing about it. And then somebody thought, if although it is counterintuitive, if it really works there, maybe we could use it for athletes who want to short break, they want to quickly rehydrate and get back to the game. Why not we do it? And that's how Gatorade came in. So the turnaround is basically trying to do the opposite of what everybody else does and making it work. The last one is eliminate. This is what we did with the electric car. We eliminated not just the engine, a whole so many things around the engine, and the car moves around because, and there is so much of space out there. Now we can figure out what we can do with all that space. And it's not just the engine; we can even eliminate the driver. And like Badri said, we can have an autonomous car which can take you wherever you want. So eliminate is not about eliminating some fringe feature. I will eliminate this and that. No, whatever is the heart of your product, which is making it work, tell yourself that I'm going to eliminate it. Then think of how else can I make it work. That's what will make your product very, very different. So that's a the turnaround and the eliminate are the most powerful ones. The combine, the rearrange, the enhance, those are all incremental triggers. But the last two are the real disruptive ones, which are the out of the box ones. Now you have with these six triggers, you'll have lots of ideas. Now I'm just going to move a little faster and tell you how to pick the good ones out of it. I'm just going to introduce four filters. You have 100 ideas, you want to pick the top 10. You're going to ask, will my customer really like it? Will it be technically feasible? Can I make it work? Then, of course, Sriram, your question, will it make money? And now, most importantly, will it be sustainable? So, desirable, feasible, viable, sustainable. Four filters. So, you can just do a quick low, medium, high kind of a rating for all your 100 ideas and pick the top 10 based on this. Because getting ideas is easy. But after that, prioritizing the top 10 ideas is a very tricky process. Each one of us is attached to our idea so much that we can't let it go. So, there should be an objective, democratic way of telling that these will be the top 10 which will be taken forward. So, this is a simple one based on IDEO's human centered design. So, this HCD talks about desirability, feasibility, and viability. So, I have added a fourth lens, which is sustainability. So, this is what we use back at Mahindra to manage all our ideas and manage the people who gave those ideas, because if their idea is dropped, they are going to feel really bad and I have to move around and they'll be there around the corridors waiting to catch me and ask, why did my idea got dropped, what happened to it? So we looked at the problem, asked a lot of insightful questions, then we used create, we got a lot of ideas. Now we picked up the top 10 ideas using this human centered design approach. Now when we want to actually make it work, we realize that there are some severe constraints. Unless we overcome these constraints, we won't be able to make it work. Here is where I want to tell you a story. Sure, all of you know the story. This is a story of constraints because the Rakshasa who did the tapas and got the boons from the god, he wanted to live forever. So he said, God, I want to live forever. God said, come on, dude, that's not possible. Ask for something else which I can actually grant you. Then he asked, I should not be killed either in the daytime or nighttime. God said, okay, reasonable, fine, granted. Then he said, I should not be killed either inside my house or outside my house. Okay, granted. Said, I should not be killed on the ground or in air. I should not be killed by any weapons. Any weapons on earth. Nothing should be able to kill me. No problem. So this guy kept on asking for so many boons, which almost made him invincible, immortal. And then he walked away very happy that God is so dumb. I almost got what I wanted. And then he comes back and he becomes already is bad and he becomes even more bad now and starts troubling people. And people go back to the God and say, what is it you have done? This bad guy, you have given him all these powers. Why did you do that? So now imagine God's situation. He has to overcome the constraints. He only has given all those things. Now he has to design around all that and solve the problem now. So he came exactly at the dusk time, which is neither day nor night, just 2 3 minutes, the transition time. And he can't kill him inside the house or outside the house, so he brought him out to the doorstep. He can't use any weapon, so he used his claw. No human can kill him. That was one of the biggest boon he got. So he cannot come as a human. So he came as a lion man, half lion and half man. So he's not a man. It's not human. And then he can't be killed on the ground or in the air. So he puts him on his lap and just finishes. Happy ending for the story. But the moral is constraints will always be there in real life, any innovation project that you take on. But if you look at it all together, it looks as if you just cannot overcome those constraints, you just cannot do it. But when you split it one by one, if I can't do it in day or night, I'll do it at the evening, exact transition time. Answer becomes very obvious. You need not be a genius to do that. So constraints, handling constraints is all about splitting it into small, manageable problems and solve it one by one, and finally the Rakshasa is dead. Simple. So this is real life innovation. Real life innovation is all about making your idea work in spite of all those constraints out there. There is no other easier way to do this. Now we have done the focus part, the leap and orient part. The leap is the create, the orient is all those lenses that we use to select the best ideas, and also making sure that it works in spite of the constraints. Now the last piece of this discussion today, what's next? How do we guess what's going to happen next? Is it how easy or difficult it is to predict the future and say, this is the next problem that I should be working on? This is what is going to happen next. Is there a way to do that? How do you do this typically? Because I'm sure all of us are interested in preparing ourselves for the future. So, what do you do? How do you go about it? Can we talk for a minute before I actually get onto that slide?
Finding what all things make life potentially easier.
Absolutely. That is one good way to start preparing for the future. Absolutely. Also,
Interesting friends.
also remember that what Badri said, it should not be just an incremental change. It should also be something big leap, kind of a disruptive thing. Sure. Keep that also in mind. How else can we try to predict what's next?
Keep track of all the technology
Keep
that
track of technology development and try to guess which one will go forward. That's one way. What else? There are these guys sitting under the tree with a parrot. We can go and ask them what's next, what's going to happen, who is going to be the next prime minister, chief minister. So many things you can ask, and they will give you an answer for sure.
Look at some of the biggest problems the society is facing.
Yes,
Because that's something that everybody is going to observe.
sure.
And if you are not going to do it, somebody else is going
Has
to look
to,
at solving it.
definitely is going to do.
So
Absolutely.
start looking at those
Big problems.
Big problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'm going to come back to you guys with a very nice discussion around how to look for those big problems and how do you make that big problem into a series of small problems and actually go ahead and solve it. We'll talk about it. Any other thoughts? Big problems? Yes. What will make life better and simple? Yes.
There are quite a few big problems which we don't seem to be solving.
Correct. For a long time.
Yeah, Bangalore traffic. We keep talking about it for
Yeah, Bangalore traffic.
Contrast,
We
right?
took 12 hours to come from Bangalore to Chennai yesterday. Typically, we do it in 6 hours. Yesterday, it was 12 hours.
Everybody loves, talking about it.
The biggest problem that now Shanta is working on is waste management. Mind boggling, actually, with all this technology advancements, we are such a primitive stage we are when it comes to handling waste, which is something we all contribute to it every day, and we are not doing anything about it. So, let's quickly come to this, and then we will spend more time to talk. What's next? Here, there are a lot of ways in which we can think and do things incrementally. But in the interest of time, I'm going to jump into one thing which will allow us to think exponentially. Something which is 10 times better than what it is today, 100 times better than what it is today. How to take that leap of faith and really think exponential rather than think linear and incremental. Sure. So again, credit goes to Shanta for introducing me to this particular work. This is a work of Peter Diamandis, and who he has his guru Ray Kurzweil. She reads Kurzweil. I read Peter Diamandis because he simplifies it a little more. Becomes easy for me. But we'll talk about it. Small story again here. This is this Ambalapura Krishna temple. Okay. And if you go there, do you know what prasadam you get there? Pal payasam. Pal payasam. And there's a story. Why do they give that? Okay. Um, that goes to the Ray Kurzweil's second half of the chess board. Okay. So this is basically there's a story where the king likes to play chess, and a saintly person comes to his court and says, "Let's play chess." They start playing, and this person who has come, he starts winning, and then he demands from the king that reward should be anything that he says the king should give. King says, "Fine." And then finally, when the wise man wins the game, says, "What should be the reward?" He says, "Just give me a few grains of rice." King says, "That's it? I thought you will ask for gold or silver and whatnot. Just asking for a few grains of rice?" "Yes. Just give me in this way. One, just a single grain for the first square. Two, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, so on. Just individual grains of rice. It's nothing big." So the king makes a quick back of the envelope calculation, says maybe it will be 10 bags of rice, maybe 100 bags of rice. Okay, I'll give you, no big deal. But friends, since you have already seen the earlier chart, you know that it's not just 100 bags of rice. It's more than 2,000 times the global production of rice as of 5 years back. Okay, things haven't changed a lot. So that's how the king wove so much rice. And it turns out that the wise old man who came is Krishna himself. And so the king is trying to pay back that rice till today, what he woves to this visitor. And that's how you get this palpaism. Whenever everybody who goes into the temple anytime get this palpaism, this is going on for so many decades, and there is still so much to give because it's so many million metric tons of rice, which is 2,000 times the global production of rice. So this is our introduction to exponential. Exponential, friends, is very different from the incremental, the linear world that we all been living in. Now we are all getting into the exponential world where things are doubling, 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 and then 10 times and 100 times and 1,000 times is not very far away. It's just day after tomorrow and the day after that. Believe me, I will very quickly show you how it is happening. One more, just for this idea to sink in. If you take 30 linear steps, each step is 1 meter, you'll be 30 meters away from where you started. But if you take 30 exponential steps, 1 meter, 2 meter, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on, you'd have gone around the world 25 times in this 30 steps. Same 30 steps, only 30 steps, but exponentially increasing, doubling, doubling, doubling. Not just once or twice, 25 times you would have gone around the world. So exponential, just accept that it's very different from linear. It's highly non-linear, and it's very fast. So that goes back to the first tsunami wave that we talked about. It's a real big wave which is moving towards at very high speed. So that's a world we are getting into. You may wonder, how do you say we are getting into that world? I don't see any evidences of that. My phone is with her. So if you are carrying your phone, actually you have the evidence for that right now with you. Okay. So I'll show you how it is. Moment. You talk about anything digital. This goes back to what the Moore's law, which is the computing power which has been doubling every 18 months. And the cost of computing also goes by half every 18 months. And we are all the beneficiaries of that because so many 18 months have gone by and this Moore's law has been holding good till recently. So it's been going. The kind of computing power that your phone has, whatever be the model, whatever be the company, the same computing power in the year I was born, 1970, there was a multi-storied building which was having the same computing power and it was spending so much energy to run that supercomputer back at IASC those days. And now you carry it in your pocket. I don't know where you keep it, but be careful. You're carrying a lot of computing power with you. So that's Moore's law. So anything you digitize, whether you like it or not, you're getting onto that thing which is exponentially growing, doubling, 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 doubling. So I don't know. When I was in school and college, I had some friends who were very bold, and when they're on a cycle, they'll hold on to some very fast-moving vehicle, then try to go at that speed. So that's what this Moore's law is all about. Moment you digitize anything, that's a kind of whether you like it or not, you're going to grow at that speed, and that's why digitization is being so much talked about everywhere and everywhere. So it's not just Moore's law, just happens to be one small thing I talked about, but there are many such disruptive technologies which can help us to kind of break away from all the constraints and do this real big exponential innovation. And here you see mobile internet, AI, robotics, energy storage like the lithium ion batteries, the 3D printing, advanced materials like graphene, cloud storage, renewables, autonomous vehicles, you name it, it's out there. And all these are exponentially growing. Performance is growing exponentially and the cost of it is falling exponentially. And multiple technologies are converging, coming together to really build products and services that we are entering into. And we are actually using some of this without being aware of that. Sure. Then you try to do that. Say, I will also digitize. Whatever it's not digitized, I'm just going to go ahead and digitize. And I will also get into the exponential growth and my profits also will grow exponentially. If it's that straightforward, I'm sure all of us would have done. But there is a catch. Why it's not really happening so commonly, why we don't see that. So there is this unfortunate guy who said, I'm going to digitize the camera. He went ahead, he digitized it. But the camera that he built was around 3.5 kgs and it was 0.01 megapixels. He worked for Kodak. He went, showed his bosses and said, everybody said, no, 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 this is no threat to what exists today. Go back and try to improve. Get back to us if you can come up with anything better than this. This has absolutely no disruptive potential. Nothing is going to change because of this. But by the time we know that things did change and we have digital cameras that are not that heavy and that are not that so low in resolution, but the company didn't exist to really capitalize on that. They couldn't leverage that innovation that happened right under the nose. So you, your spouse, your in-laws, your manager, your CEO, all of them should be patient enough to let that idea grow through this deceptive phase so that you cross that and then it's going to be exponential growth. But initially, it's going to be a slow growth. What it leads to is dematerialization. You don't need all those things now. You just need that small thing on the right side. So that is dematerialization. When that happens, this is again dematerialization. Imagine how much of metal, how much of engineering would have gone into that. That's not there. That's a dematerialization. Demonetization. When I grew up, this Encyclopedia Britannica used to cost a lot and used to take a lot of space. Today, we don't really know. Even if somebody gives free, we may not really be comfortable using it. So we have better ways of doing it. So dematerialization is always accompanied by demonetization, where the cost goes off. Suddenly it became 1/10 or 1/100th or sometimes even zero cost. You'll be able to do it. All this is happening because nature follows the simple rule, democratization. Whatever be the hi-fi technology you're working on, eventually everybody should have access to it. It should be affordable to everybody. That's what is the key driver here. So this is the very famous 6D model that Peter Diamandis put forward. Start with the digitization, survive through deception. You'll see the disruption happen, dematerialization, demonetization, and eventually the democratization. So there are a couple of books that Peter Diamandis has written. Abundance is the very first book. The next one is Flow. There is a third book also. So please look at it if you want to really use it in your own sphere. So, friends, the last 1 hour or so, we talked about looking at this whole complex elephant called innovation, just like the seven blind men looked at it in different parts and pieces and tried to say this is what it all adds up to. I'm just trying to kind of look at it in three parts. The focus part, what we should really look at, the leap and orient part, how do we let go of the current ideas which are working and create the space that's needed for new ideas, and how do we guess what's the next big problem that we should be working on. And this is what we have gone through. We looked at a few tools like what if it's not there, the 6 questions that we started with, the 5 whys. These are the simple things that we did to bring more focus and clarity to our innovation journey, because that's the very first thing we do. Second, in Leap and Orient, we looked at create, how we can combine things, rearrange, enhance, adapt, turn around, and eliminate to come up with new versions of the products and services that exist today. Last but not the least, we talked about can we actually predict what's next, not just in a linear world, in an incremental world, but even in an exponential, non-linear world. Is there a way for us to predict and be part of creating it rather than passively waiting for somebody to do it? Can we ourselves do it? We said start with the digitization and move towards democratization, where your product and service will be accessible and affordable to every single person out there. Then the nature would actually, this is not me telling. Patanjali said way back in his Yoga Sutra that once you work on a project like that, you will never be constrained by resources. All the resources of the universe will automatically come to you to make it happen. Democratization is such a powerful driver that you will never be constrained by resources when you get onto this mode. So, friends, I'd love to stop at this stage. And if we have time, we can take more questions. And I'd be very happy. So thanks to Gopu, Badri for actually giving me this chance to come over here and meet you all. And thanks to each one of you for being here on this festive weekend and prioritizing this over many other things. You could be eating sweets, you could be bursting crackers, but you decided to be here. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Sure.
Yeah, one or two short questions you can take them there with finish that in 5 minutes.
Nice. Very nice. That's so nice. அப்படியா ஓ இங்கே தானே சூப்பர் yep I think we exceeded that time a lot actually.
Delayed stuff because of delayed stuff.
Sure, thank you.
So many of them confuse innovation and invention.
Correct.
They said innovation is not innovation because they said they think innovation, every innovation should consist of invention.
Absolutely. So I would say invention is definitely a subset of innovation. So suppose you take a problem and you actually solve it, and nobody has done it that way, you'll be able to get a patent for it. That is an invention. But if you're also able to commercialize it, scale it up and commercialize it, that becomes an innovation. So invention is that way a subset definitely of innovation. Without it, you cannot innovate. Absolutely. But you have to go beyond that. That's only.
Most people think innovation is only done by some scientists or some people endowed with
Correct.
intelligence and things like that. So, what would you suggest for normal people to develop that mindset that it can be, it is possible for all of us to be innovative?
Sure. Sure.
So, are there some practices
Sure.
or behavioral aspects?
So,
Especially students who are starting their life career, of course, for all.
so actually, I don't know. It's somewhere as we grow up, either somebody does it or we do it ourselves. We get branded as being either creative or not creative, either as innovative or not innovative, and we accept many times. That's fine. Somebody else. Steve Jobs பண்ணுவாரு, Elon Musk பண்ணுவாரு, நம்ம பண்றது நம்ம பண்ணலாங்க மாதிரி. That's fair. But there is a very interesting insight that I came across to kind of address this. The person goes on to say that it's very wrong to say A is creative and B is not creative. The right way to say this is A is confident about his creativity, B is not confident about his creativity. And where does that confidence come from? He's tried many things, failed many times, and he knows that even after if I fail, sometime eventually I will crack it. So he's confident about his creativity. B never went out of his comfort zone, kept doing what he's sure of succeeding, never did the risky things. So he's not sure whether he'll be able to creatively do something or not. So he says that there is only two types in the whole world: A, who is confident about his or her creativity, and B, who is not confident because he or she has never tried it. They kind of kept themselves very safe. That's it. So that empowers you to say it's in your hands to decide whether you want to try it out or not. Of course, it's not an easy journey, it's difficult, but it's worth it end of the day. Sure. Thanks. We can still talk.
Small token of appreciation from Varahamira Science Forum.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Please, we'll come there. Maybe we can just. You can take a picture for us.
This is my
Okay. Let's just also be there.
Professor Swaminathan, founder of the Tamil Heritage Trust.
Wow.
Photo book on Mahabalipuram.
Beautiful. Profitable. We have this Arjuna's penance. This is prominently featured there.
This is
Maybe
the
you
one
can
that
show it for the photo.
Yes.
This is the one that our Prime Minister presented